Okay, I just muted everyone. If you want to talk, just unmute and speak up. But I'm Ron Holloway, and I am really pleased to be able to welcome you to this meeting of the Zoom meeting of the Fellowship of Spirit for August 4th today. And we're just really glad that you are here. I don't see any newcomers. It's all pretty much people who are the backbone and heart of our church. So,
Ron, the rest of us are in October.
did I say September?
No, you said August. You lost a couple of months.
I was concentrating so much on the number that I forgot, I messed up on the deal, but it is October 4th. I kind of say that so that it documents it online. That's why I'm saying that. It's for our recording. So anyway, that's good that you corrected me. We could have got all screwed up, couldn't we? So anyway, that's good. October 4th. We got a great lineup for you today. I don't know. Is anybody going to do a spiritual reading? I think we messed up on.
I am.
Huh?
I am, Ron.
You are? Okay. Mike is doing the spiritual reading. Great. Great. And Fred is going to be doing our main message as well as playing music for us. So he's a multi-talented man today, and he's going to bring out and display all of those wonderful talents he has. Okay. Jenny has volunteered to do our opening prayer, and now is the time for that. Go, Jenny.
Now I wanted to say a few words first, and that is that this birthday always reminds me 10-4, good buddy. So if you're familiar with Subi language at all, that's the only thing I'm familiar with. So 10-4, good buddies. It's good to see everybody's face. I wasn't here last weekend because I went camping, and it was quite an amazing adventure, which means that it wasn't exactly easy, but it turned out just fine. So, okay. Mother, Father God, thank you for bringing us to yet another equinox and the beauty that surrounds us. Let us be in tune with it. There are so many colors out there. There are still flowers, there are leaves changing, and of course, everything is so beautiful in our world. So we are so grateful. Thank you that we can come together in this way and that each of us is still healthy. So please keep guiding us and allowing us to express our gratitude and thanks to you every day. So be it.
So be it. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. I don't know. Does anybody have any announcements that they need to make at the beginning of our meeting? I mean, we had a very successful town hall last time, and we have a newsletter that's forthcoming that the girls have been working on, and it's going to bring everybody up to date in print. So, okay, Fred, sing us a song.
Wait. You asked, and then I raised my hand. You didn't pay attention.
Hey, you're not on my screen right now.
Okay. We had a yard sale yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And thanks to Jenny and Sarah and myself, we collected $50, and we think that it ought to go towards the children's Christmas fund. And so unless somebody has any major objection, that's where we're going to put the money. We had a wonderful time visiting with each other. We didn't have a lot of people stop by, but it was a great time to be out, and the weather was beautiful. So it was good.
Sound like it was successful. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you. And thank you, Jerry, and the other ladies who did that. And the $50 for the children's fund is greatly appreciated. I think that's a good deal. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Fred.
Here we go. How you guys doing today? Well, I'm going to try to keep this all in the same theme. Made some changes to one of the songs that I wrote, and I've kind of guess you'd say over the last couple of days, the little talk I'm going to give you, but it's all around the same theme. This song came to me through a group called the Old Crow Medicine Show. If you guys don't know who that is, you're missing out. They are a very extremely talented group of, I'd say, middle-aged men now, but they used to be young men that play traditional mountain music combined with, I guess you'd say, a more modern approach to it. They've run several Grammys. Anyway, they write some really great music. The Old Crow Medicine Show. So the song is actually from the 1920s. It was written by a man named Blind Ralph Reed. And Mr. Reed was a Methodist minister in West Virginia. And when the fellers, for lack of a better word, came from New York, searching, kind of trying to do the Neil Lomax thing, when he went to the South and recorded all the blues players, they were doing a similar thing with mountain music. And people from his organization went into West Virginia trying to find people that played traditional country music. And of the 3 acts they brought back to Bristol Records in New York City to record was the Carter Family, Jimmy Rogers, and Ralph Reed, Blind Ralph Reed. So this is one of Blind Ralph Reed's songs. It's not his most popular song. It was recorded originally, him playing fiddle. He was a multi-instrumentalist. He played everything. Somehow people really don't know where he got his musical training from. His mother and father were originally sharecroppers. And yes, he was white, not black. So this is a white man. And yes, white men did sharecrop back in the day too. So, but he learned how to teach himself both what they called the New York Penn system of reading and Braille, and he always preferred Braille. Basically, he would have his nephews and nieces, when they'd go into town, he'd go into town with them, take care of a few of his business. If he had the opportunity to go preach, he'd go preach if he was invited. He didn't have a church. And then he would go and set up on a street corner and play songs for quarters and dimes and nickels and things like that. So that's how he made his living. So this song's called Always Lift Him Up, Never Knock Him Down. When a man has the blues and feels discouraged, there's nothing else but trouble on his mind. But he's just an honest man like any other, living in a world that's staring at his mind. If you're sick and tired of life and takes to drinking, do not pass him by, don't greet him with a frown. Do not fail to lend your hand and try to help him. Always lift him up and never knock him down. Always lift him up and never knock him down. If he stays out late at night because he's troubled, or because his house no longer is his home, oh, have a smile. show him pity. Always lift him up and never knock him down. If he has no friends and everything against him, if he's failed in everything to strive, try to lift his load and help him bear his burden. Let him know that you are walking by his side. If he feels that all is lost and he has fallen down, help to place this poor man's feet on solid ground. When this world has turned his back all against him, lift him up and don't you ever knock him down. Lift him up and don't you ever knock him down. Lift her up and tell her it's alright. Lift her up and never knock her down. Line around for you, folks.
Fred, thank you. I think that your volume went down. I could barely hear you.
Did it?
I can't hardly hear you.
Oh, well, it's auto adjusting. You don't hear me now?
No, not really. Very, very low. Anybody else have that same problem? Could you hear Fred okay or not? No.
Well, give me a
I
second.
can barely hear him.
Oh, yeah, we could barely hear you.
About halfway through the song, it went away.
Yeah.
Well, that sucks. Hang on.
Hmm.
How about now?
Yeah, we got you now. That's good.
Was it halfway through the song?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it just sort of, it kind of decreased gradually and it came to a point where we could barely hear you.
Then that was the automation, the
Yeah.
computer trying to automatically adjust.
I turned
You want
that
me to
off.
sing the song again? I
I
will.
What does everybody say? You want to hear it again? I don't know. We couldn't hear it.
All right, let's do it again.
Do it again.
It's not that long.
No. Yeah.
Technology, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, here we go. Remember what the title was?
No.
Always lift him up and never knock him down.
Never knock him down.
Never
That's
knock
right.
All right.
Okay.
All right, here we go. When the man has the blues and feels discouraged and has nothing else but trouble all his life, but he's just an honest man like any other, living in a world that's staring at his mind. If he's sick and tired of life and takes to drinking, do not pass him by, don't beat him with a frown. Do not fail to lend your hand and try to help him. Always lift him up and never knock him down. If he stays out late at night because he's troubled, or because his house is no longer his home, have a smile for him whenever you may meet him. It will help him find the right way, don't you see? If he gambles when he's out in that city, tell him what he ought to do to win the round. Do not fail to lend your hand and show him pity. Always lift him up and never knock him down. If he has no friends and everything's against him, and if he's failed at everything he's tried, try to lift his load and help him bear that burden. Let him know that you are walking by his side. let him repeat this lost and fallen. Help to place this poor man's feet on solid ground. When this world has turned its back against him, lift him up and never bring him down. Lift him up and never knock him down. Lift her up and never knock her down. Lift him up and never ever knock him down. There you go.
You know what I like about that song, Fred? I like it because, yes, we would do that for our friends or our family or somebody we know or we're close to, but that song reminds us that just a passing acquaintance or somebody we barely know or the person on the street, to not be so judgmental about them. And if you haven't got anything good to say or do for them, then at least don't knock them down on your way by. Don't say bad things. Don't make derogatory comments. But thank you. That's a beautiful song.
Blind Ralph Reed.
Thank you. Now we could hear the whole thing and we loved it. Thank you. All right, Mike, are you ready for the spiritual reading?
Sure. Actually, I think this pretty well falls in that same category, the theme that we're talking about. So this is from Chicken Soup for the Soul, and it's called Practice Random Kindness and Senseless Acts of Beauty. And I know we're all familiar with, this movement and stuff, but I think it's always nice to have a little refresher. So here we go. It's an underground slogan that's spreading across the nation. It's a crisp winter day in San Francisco. A woman in a red Honda, Christmas presents piled high in the back, drives up to the Bay Bridge toll booth. I'm paying for myself and for the 6 cars behind me, she says with a smile. Excuse me, handing over 7 commuter tickets. One after another, the next 6 drivers arrive at the toll booth, dollars in hand, only to be told, some lady up ahead already paid your fare. Have a nice day. The woman in the Honda, it turned out, had read something on an index card taped to a friend's refrigerator. Practice random kindness and senseless acts of beauty. The phrase seemed to leap out at her, and she copied it down. Judy Foreman spotted the same phrase spray painted on a warehouse wall 100 miles from her home. When it stayed on her mind for days, she gave up and drove all the way back to copy it down. I thought it was incredibly beautiful, she said, explaining why she had taken to writing it at the bottom of all her letters, like a message from above. Her husband, Frank, liked the phrase so much that he put it up on the classroom wall of his 7th graders, one of whom was the daughter of a local columnist. The columnist put it in the paper, admitting that though she liked it, she didn't know where it came from or what it really meant. 2 days later, she heard from Annie Herbert, tall, blonde, and 40. Herbert lives in Marion, one of the country's 10 richest counties, where she house sits, takes odd jobs, gets by. It was in a Sausalito restaurant that Herbert jotted the phrase down on a paper placemat after turning it around in her mind for days. That's wonderful, a man sitting nearby said, and copied it down carefully on his own placemat. Here's the idea, Herbert says. Anything you think there should be more of, do it randomly. Her own fantasies include breaking into depressing looking schools to paint the classrooms. 2, leaving hot meals on kitchen tables in the poor part of town. 3, slipping money into a proud old woman's purse. Says Herbert, kindness can build on itself as much as violence can. Now the phrase is spreading on bumper stickers, on walls, at the bottom of letters and business cards. And as it spreads, so does a vision of guerrilla goodness. In Portland, Oregon, a man might pluck a coin into a stranger's parking meter just in time. In Patterson, New Jersey, a dozen people with pails and mops and tulip bulbs might descend on a rundown house and clean it up top to bottom while the frail elderly owner looks on, dazed and smiling. In Chicago, a teenage boy may be shoveling off a driveway when the impulse strikes. What the hell? Nobody's looking, he thinks, and shovels the neighbor's driveway too. It's positive anarchy, disorder, a sweet disturbance. A woman in Boston writes, "Merry Christmas" to the tellers on the back of her checks. A man in St. Louis whose car has just been rear-ended by a young woman waves her away, saying, "It's a scratch, don't worry." Senseless acts of beauty spread. A man plants daffodils along the roadway, his shirt billowing in the breeze from passing cars. In Seattle, a man appoints himself a one-man vigilante sanitation service and roams the concrete halls collecting litter in a supermarket cart. In Atlanta, a man scrubs graffiti from a green park bench. They say you can't smile without cheering yourself up a little. Likewise, you can't commit a random kindness without feeling as if your own troubles have been lightened, if only because the world has become a slightly better place. And you can't be a recipient without feeling a shock, a pleasant jolt. If you were one of those rush hour drivers who found your bridge fare paid, who knows what you might have been inspired to do for someone else later. Wave someone on in the intersection. Smile at a tired clerk. Or something larger, greater. Like all revolutions, guerrilla goodness begins slowly with a single act. Let it be yours. And it ends with a quote from Gandhi. And this is it. It's the action, not the fruit of the action that's important. You have to do the right thing. It may not be in your power, may not be in your time that there'll be any fruit, but that doesn't mean you stop doing the right thing. You may never know what results come from your action, but if you do nothing, there will be no result. And that's it.
Thanks, Mike. That was great. We appreciate it. All right.
Can I ask one thing? That was practice random acts of kindness and senseless beauty? Was that what it said?
Mike, are you listening?
Random kindness and senseless acts of beauty.
Senseless acts of beauty. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Could I say one thing real quick? This is Marion. Last winter at Smith's, when I was grocery shopping, the man behind me in line paid my grocery bill.
Wow.
Random act of kindness. So it does happen.
It does happen. Sure it does.
He got a big hug. I have no idea who he was or what his name was, but he got a huge hug.
Sure. Yeah. It's important to receive as well as give, isn't it? Mary?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there he is. I thought he escaped, but he's still here. Fred Brown is our speaker today, and I can't find his resume, but he is a very talented man who has graced our church, and he's benefited our church in a lot of different ways. And I'm sure that his his talk today is going to be beneficial to everyone. So let's welcome Fred Brown.
Hi, guys. Good to see you this morning. Just want to thank you all for another opportunity to talk about something. I really appreciate Ron's work that he's been doing and his leadership. And I appreciate all of your all support over these years. I truly appreciate that we're doing this, though it's very strange to do every once in a while. I mean, I have to, if you could see behind here, I've got all kinds of papers and stuff on stands, and there's a whole production that you can't even see. But it's the only way I can get it done in a, I guess you'd say, in a home environment at this point. So even if it isn't easy, it's worth every moment of it. So thank you all. Today, what I wanted to talk about, that it just popped in my mind when I was trying to come up with something to talk about. I mean, there's always a lot to talk about when it comes to metaphysics and religion and belief systems and positive thinking. I mean, you know, there's an entire section in the library for it. So, which is a good thing now, right? It wasn't that way when I was a kid, but with the way things have been changing nowadays, and with the political situation and the, I guess you'd say, the current in the world right now with the pandemic and global politics as what it is, and the economy. And then more recently, the big changes that we've had in our own little world here in the United States of America. Something that came to my mind that would be a good thing to think about, and it's something that I have to think about pretty much on a daily, maybe hourly basis to keep my sanity, is what I would term, and it's something I learned a little bit in therapy with VA doctors, is something called active forgiveness. So that's what we're going to talk about today, or I'm going to talk about, is active forgiveness. Now, I think all of us are pretty steeped in what forgiveness is or isn't, and I'm sure many of us have studied all different parts of it. But what I want to talk about today is applying that in not a static method, but in a method of, or a process of dealing with a lot of anxiety and the pressures and the fears that we have nowadays. I think if you didn't have a little bit of anxiety and with all these changes, and you didn't have a little bit of trepidation of where things are going to be in the future, I think maybe you've been in a mountain meditating and getting here. But I don't think any of us have been in mountains meditating. So active forgiveness is something that we need to practice on a daily, hourly basis. The first thing I want to talk about, as far as a good example of that, and this is not something you would, you know, I normally go to, but when I was thinking about how we treat those who are on the other side, so to speak, either religiously, politically, or sometimes the people that we have hurt us in the past. We bring up that duality of an us and a them. Just recently, I still get to play in a honky tonk band, and I was having a conversation at a little gig that I was able to do at 550 Brewing with somebody, and I just mentioned, I should have just kept my mouth shut, but I just mentioned that, you know, I always have a good time playing no matter what, and I always put myself in the best attitude I can by listening solely to music for about half an hour to an hour before I even go play a gig. And I said, I'm just, thank God, when I got here, I didn't listen to anything political. And the person made a comment to me that was strange. They said, well, let's not get into politics unless you're on my side. And I was just like, wow, you know what I mean? And the first thing that hit me was, you know, we aren't on sides. There is no you and I, or us and them attitude. And it pretty much this whole current of the world that we're living in right now is an us and them experience. And it is, you're on this side or you're on that side. If you don't support this, if you don't support that, and it's created a natural, if not a duality, a very dangerous pluralism in people's consciousness and in their lifestyle. And all I could say in response to that was, there is no sides. I'm on your side. And they laughed and they said, well, since you fought for our freedom, you know, you get a pass. So, and that was both kind of a nice thing to say, but also a double-edged sword, you know? And it even showed me further how even a very good person that I know and I like can live in a dualistic and reality that's in conflict with the very actions taking place between us. And I had to think to myself, well, how do you deal with this on a daily basis? And I came back to actively forgiving, not thinking that, okay, well, you know, in the dictionary, forgiveness is an act or a process of relieving sentence or guilt for something, or, you know, like a pardon, or, you know, there's a ton of synonyms. But the thing I most relate to is a process, because for me, it's been hard to deal with a lot of things in my life, the way I grew up, things I went through, even some of the things that I do and have done. Part of the reason why I go to therapy and part of the reason why I am a disabled vet. And one of the things I've been taught a lot and go over a lot is living with the two thoughts in your mind and being at peace, not conflict with them. And for me, actively forgiving myself is something that I have to do on a daily basis. And so in that moment, when I was talking to them, they said that to me. I thought, well, my mind got drawn back to a story long ago. It's in the Gospels. It was written by a man that they call now Saint Luke. It's one of the last Gospels. Traditionally and scholastically, I guess you'd say the determination of authorship is pretty solid. There's a lot of letters about, I mean, in the letters of Paul, he speaks of Luke, and some of the pastoral letters, which are included in the Catholic version of the Bible, and some of the more open versions of the Bible as Apocrypha. He's written, and he has certain writings about him and that he co-authored. So this is a pretty solid historical figure. He is credited with writing, of course, the Gospel of Luke and also the book of Acts. And pretty much they're pretty sure he wrote the book of Hebrews too. So this is who Luke was. The Gospel of Luke was written sometime after the fall of Jerusalem. That started in 66 AD by the Emperor Titus, when he came and basically burned Jerusalem to the ground. Of course, after that happened, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Masada. That's where the ones that survived went. Well, at least where the army followed them to. So this gospel is supposed to be written sometime around 73 AD, after the death of Christ. So what's that, 2 or 3 generations? So we're talking, you know, quite a ways from oral tradition being written down. That's who Luke was. Sometimes he's called the beloved doctor in some of the other writings in the Bible. So anyway, we're just going to go with Luke chapter 23. And this is the New English version of it. We'll start here with verse 26. As the soldiers led him away, they seized Simon from Cyrene, who was on his way in from a country, and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed and cried for him. Along the path, Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves. Weep for your children. For the time will come when you will say, blessed are the childless women, the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed." And then he quoted from Isaiah, "They will say to the mountains, please come fall on us, and to the hills cover us. For if people will do these things when the tree is green and ripe, what will happen when the tree is dry?" Two other men, both criminals, were led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. And Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And then below him, they divided up his clothes and gambled for them. As the people stood watching, and even the rulers that came to see him crucified sneered and jeered at him, they said, he says he saved others. Why can't he save himself? If he is truly our Messiah, if he's truly our chosen one. Then even soldiers came up to him and mocked him. And then they offered him wine vinegar to ease his pain and said to him, "If you truly are the King of the Jews, why don't you just save yourself?" There was a written notice above his head which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there started hurling insults at him, saying, "Aren't you the Messiah? Aren't you our king? Can't you save us and save yourself?" But then the other criminal rebuked that man and said to him, "Don't you fear God, since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly for the things that we have done and the deeds that we do deserve. But this man here has done nothing wrong." Then he said to Jesus, "Jesus, please remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus answered him, "Truly, I tell you today, you will be with me in paradise." So what does this say to us in a day like this, and when we're talking about active forgiveness and in a time like this? It's hard, very, very hard. If you've been affected by a coronavirus, or you've had a loved one who has died or gotten sick or is still sick from the virus, it would be really, really, really hard for you to look at the current situation and the current leadership in our country and go, "Oh, I guess it's okay." Especially if you had to sit there and wait for the news from a nurse to call you that your loved one has passed. Couldn't even go to the hospital, couldn't even see him. So I'd say now, above all else, since the same sentence has been given to these same people, and they will now be suffering as those who had suffered, active forgiveness is even more important for all of us as individuals, as citizens of the United States, as fellow people in our community, to be actively forgiving to all the people around us, both up and down, no matter how hard it is. I mean, I think right there, the prophet from Nazareth laid it out pretty plain. In his worst moment, betrayed by his friends, rejected by his society, sentenced by his peers to crimes he did not commit, hanging in the pain and the agony of torture. Luke says that the story goes that he reached out to the people beside him, that he looked down on the people below him who were killing him and actively forgave. And that's very, very powerful. It's probably one of the most powerful things you can read in the Bible, and a lot better than everything that happened behind it. And then when I look to the Buddhist tradition, forgiveness is actually a part of suffering, because to feel hurt, you'd have to be attached to the thing that hurts you. And so in the Buddhist tradition, it's taught that you need to separate yourself from those attachments, to believing that there is a wrong or a right, to believing that there is a black and a white, or a brown and a yellow, understanding that everything is one consciousness, one reality. Over here, you've done this, I've done that. In the moment that you take, when you see the harm, when you feel the anger, when you feel the pain, that's the first step in a process of allowing peace where there is anger, peace where there is conflict, unity when there is division. Some may say that forgiveness is the most fundamental act of true love. I would find that hard to argue with, because it's very hard for me to forgive. It was very, very hard for me to forgive myself. And it's something that I live with on a daily basis. I was raised in a very strict, guess you'd say, evidence-based lifestyle, where your worth was what you did. Your worth was who you and what you did and how you did it. Your honor was based on the way that you acted. And I'm not saying those are bad things, but put into a framework of duality where there's good, there's bad, there's failure, there's a success, it can create a lot of division in your mind. And that's one of the things that I fight with every day. So in the Buddhist sense, of course, we've all heard the saying from Buddha that's paraphrased here in English, but that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I mean, this very much applies right now. I mean, I think forgiveness is the best answer. And it's going to be a process. I mean, sometimes we need to see some repentance from the people that have hurt us, or that we perceive it hurts, for us to even reach the level to where we can begin to forgive. But in a spiritual sense, it's something that a choice that we need to make on every decision, every emotion that comes at you. Think first. Where is peace here? Where is love here? Where is forgiveness here? In the Egyptian Book of Dead, I don't know if you guys know anything about it, but this is something that came up about 3,000 years before Christ, when the rich people and the kings and stuff wanted to pass on to the afterlife. Of course, in Egypt, that was really only reserved for royalty in the beginning. They had prayers for the dead that they would write on the sarcophagi. All those symbols are prayers and texts for the dead, like support for the dead. But inside the sarcophagus, they would paint the inside of the sarcophagus with what's called the Egyptian Book of the Dead. In it, it describes what would happen after you die and all the steps. And I believe there's 13, I think. And then 13 and 7, I don't know. You can look at it in different ways, but there's different tests that you have to go through before you can actually enter the realm of the gods. One of the last one is the weighing of the soul. And what happens at this point is, this is the very last step. There is the mother god sitting before you, and there is a gate there. And behind that gate is Anubis, and he's the goddess of death and war. He has a jackal's head, a man's body, lion's feet. And he is the ultimate judge. And in front of you are 2 scales. And you're asked to step on the scale. And on the other scale is a feather. And if it's found that you weigh more than that feather, Anubis rushes through the gate and eats you. You don't enter the afterlife. If you're found in balance to be equal or lighter than the feather, you're allowed to pass into the realm of gods. Now, what would that possibly mean? What does that have to do with forgiveness? I think it's pretty obvious. If you pull your burdens with you all your life, and they're always right here in front of you, and you're waiting for somebody else to let them down, well, it's up for us to let those burdens down. It's up to us to forgive and find a way to make our souls as light as a feather. And I think forgiveness is pretty much the key to that process. What does Course in Miracles say about forgiveness? Well, it has a whole chapter on it, chapter 134. So if you want to go back to your Course in Miracles after this and look up forgiveness, go to chapter 134. I'm going to paraphrase verse 7. It says, forgiveness is the only thing that stands for truth in the illusions of this world. It looks on lies, but it is not deceived. It looks at those mad with guilt and sin and says, my brother, my sister, what you think is not the truth. So, and that's really all I got. That is forgiveness and active forgiveness. So appreciate it, guys. Hope I've given you something that you did not know and something to think about today as you go about your day. Namaste.
Thank you, Fred. You know, you kind of touched on something I've not heard anybody else talk about, and that is that we cannot uplift anyone by tearing someone else down. That does not work. In our society right now, I think a lot of the conflict, that is what's happening. They think they can uplift someone by tearing others down. What happens is everybody gets turned down. Everybody gets torn up when that happens. So thank you, Fred. That was great.
You're welcome.
Open it up. Does anybody have any comments or things that they would like to say to Fred?
Yes, not?
There you go. Yeah,
Can
go
you
ahead.
hear me?
Yes, I
I
can
can
hear
hear.
you.
Thank you so much, Fred. You're a great speaker. I always, and because you always, when you were singing, you always gave a little bit, and I was quite impressed. Thank you very much, dear. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. I like the term active forgiveness. It seems to have a lot of power in it.
It does. If you can process it on a daily basis, you know, and
Yeah.
live in that humility. You know, it's hard to do. It's very hard to do. Very, very hard for me to do. So
Practice makes perfect.
exactly.
I would like to say thank you, Fred, for including forgiveness of yourself and for adding how difficult that is. I don't think that our culture raises us to be forgiving of ourselves. I think we have a pretty harsh culture as far as that goes. And so we're fighting both that external and that internal as well.
Exactly true. That's exactly true,
thoroughly-
Jan.
I thoroughly agree with Jenny on that, because from childhood, we are taught to criticize ourselves, to be critical of ourselves, and to judge ourselves harshly. And I even find myself doing that now, even though I know better, when I forget where I put my keys or I lose something and I go, Jerry, you tell me, what are you doing? So
Yeah,
thank
I
you,
think
Fred.
we have
then
ideals
at
in
a
our
time,
society
right
that
there.
are very dominant on success, winning. You know, it's almost like I think it's in our warrior-like. And I have to say this is it's in our warrior-like mentality that we have as a culture. You see it in sport, you see it in relationships. I mean, most people are more concerned about being right than being loving, and it doesn't lend to any peace, because immediately when you go into what's right, what's wrong, you set up a dualism. You draw a line, you know, and that line will cut your empathy to maybe just sympathy, and that's where we got to stop thinking is that we are us, you know, us New Thought, or us liberals, or us progressive people, and them are these conservatives, and you know, there is no us and them. We are all connected. We're all in this together, and being kind and loving. I mean, I think that even in the circumstance with the president getting ill, the first things out of Joe and Jill Biden was that they were praying for him. You know, there was no gloating. There was no, and that showed an amazing amount of class. And I think we all need to live in that. I guess if that's perfection, then make forgiveness your perfection. That's all I got to say.
Okay. If no one else has anything, we will have another song from Fred.
Let me adjust.
Fred's having a busy morning.
Yes, he is.
Fred, I muted you by mistake.
Can you see me now? I don't know how well this song's gonna come out, but I'm gonna try it for you guys anyway. I'm always game for something new. Let me tune up here for a second. When you have that little capo thing on there, you have to tune the guitar to that capo, and then when you take it off, you gotta tune the guitar again. So I should have had two guitars, but there we go. All right, this song. Well, you might notice this. You might know this song from the radio. Let's see if I can do it right.
Your volume is going down, Fred.
Can you hear me?
Not as well.
Not as well? All right, hang on. Let me change that. Hang on. Audio settings. How's it going now?
That's better. Thank you.
All right.
I want to stay on until we got this squared away. I'm going away.
got me by my soul to squeeze all of the love from me. With all these dying trees I scream, the angels over me have turned to demons of greed. That's me. Where I go, I just don't know. I gotta take it slow. When I find my peace of mind, I'm gonna give you some of my good time. Oh, so polite indeed. I've all the, oh, I think I missed that one. Well, that's it. We'll just do that part of the song and we'll finish it. So that was it. I'm sorry. I didn't get this one down. I just broke a string.
All right,
Sorry.
thanks, Fred.
Great song.
Yeah, if I wouldn't have broke a string. 2 guitars, Fred. 2 guitars.
Thank you, Fred. We
Thank you.
appreciate you, brother.
All right, Fred, we forgive you.
I was just gonna say that.
Thank
Forgive
you.
yourself, Fred.
I will. I have 2 guitars. That's the problem, you know. I just didn't think about it.
Yeah. Is Lily on there? Is Lily here? Lily, could you give us a progress report on our newsletter?
Mostly Linda has been putting things together, any articles. If anybody wants to add anything, get it to us in the next couple of days. But Linda and Chris are pulling it together to get it out in the relatively short order. So they're working hard.
Okay. That's good.
And Ron, we are sending it out through Constant Contact rather than the mail because we feel that the mail is going to be overloaded with the elections coming on and people doing mail-in ballots. So if people want to receive a hard copy in the future, they need to let us know.
Okay.
Okay.
So the medium that your regular medium that you're gonna have is through Constant Contact. But
That's
if you
correct.
want a hard copy through the mail that they can request it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Does anyone else have any announcements? We've covered the yard sale and the town hall newsletter. At the town hall, it was pretty much, it was overwhelmingly voted in to not meet for the foreseeable future. You know, I mean, not in the next month or two, probably, to meet face to face. We'll visit it every month probably, but that most of the people were thinking that it is just too early to meet face to face and be present with one another. The Zoom thing is going pretty good. And so that's what the town hall voted on. So it wasn't just the board, it was everyone that was there. And there's a pretty good representative of the thing. I want to thank Lily and Linda, Christine, and Jerry for their work on the newsletter, because those things are they are a lot of work to do. and we appreciate your efforts. If someone would like to offer us a benediction prayer?
No.
Okay,
You guys want to end with the Lord's Prayer?
we could.
I mean, I can do that if you want. Awundu ashmia neth karashmak. Te maukuta. Erque sibiana e kanandwashmia a bara. Len lakna sung kanayumana. Washwakan halbin. Kanan shaklan il hayuin. Ula tala enisiona. Ela pesan, membisha. Meto de laki malkuta. O haila. O tishbukta. La alam. Alamin. Amen. You guys know the rest.
Thank you, Mike. Hey, I want to remind everybody that we are posting these services on YouTube, and I checked, and they are all there. You might have to move, to search around, browse around the inside of YouTube on our page, but all of the ones that we have recorded are all on there, every single one, except for one that I didn't post, and I have to forgive myself for that. But early on, I messed up and didn't do it. But I don't even remember who it was now. It might have been Margaret. Anyway, all of them that we have recorded, we have posted, and we'll continue to do that. Everyone have a safe week. Continue to love each other and check on each other and call, and remember that our relationship as fellowship is very important, that we're going through this thing together and that we're not alone. No one is alone. So thank you, and everybody have a good week. Bye-bye.